In this video, I'm going to talk about debt and how that relates to real estate, but make sure you watch part 1 of this video to get the full picture. I will put the link in the description of this video so that you can check that out. I'll see you there. All right, another example. Lenner Corp, a home builder based in Florida, and its subsidiary Eagle Home Mortgage recently unveiled its student loan debt mortgage program. What? What are they talking about? All right, to help free up student loan borrowers' budgets so that they can afford a home. Can you believe this? Under the program, Lenner will direct up to 3% of the home purchase price to repay up to 13% of the borrower's student loans for those purchasing a brand new home from the company. So if you buy a home from us and you have student debt, don't worry about it. We are going to give you a little incentive. We're going to help you out. And of course, that's fine that they're helping out. I don't have a problem with that. But what have you done? Well, you've taken your student loan, that might be $20,000, $50,000, whatever it is, and you've now converted that. Instead of $20,000, you now have $200,000. Instead of $50,000, you might have $500,000. And that's a big problem, because you would think, well, don't worry about it, I'll pay it off over this 30-year period. Not a big deal, I can make the payments. Number 1, are you going to be able to find a good job that can actually pay for what you need, for all your expenses? Are there going to be, jobs in your industry at that time when you're out trying to get a job? Okay, that's another factor people don't think about. What other debt will you incur along the way? Do you have a car? Are you currently living with your parents? Are you living in a shared facility? What are the financial expectations that you have over the next few years? At the same time, what will happen to interest rates? You can pay them today. Can you pay it tomorrow? All right. That's another example. Moving on quickly, okay? This is just showing you the same information, particularly with millennial buyers, people who want to buy a home of their own or not feeling as though they can move forward. Our program is designed to relieve some of that burden and remove that barrier to owning a home. This is a ridiculous prospect, and I hope that they shut this down immediately. Okay, this is just one company, but there are many, many, and that is Money Mart. This is basically short-term loans for the most part. People go in, they need $100, $300, whatever it is, and these are popping up all over the place. All over the place. Maybe it's cash for gold. Maybe it's, just payday advance, your payday loans, whatever it is. They're everywhere. You could see they're concentrated in certain areas. Ultimately, though, they're all over the place. This happens to be from Canada, but look around. You'll find them in your area as well. And when you're in this position, you're going to be paying extremely high rates of interest. That's fine. The business provides a service. Okay? Totally fine. However, if you're pushed to the edge like this, you are definitely in dire straits. You're not doing well if you need to use one of these facilities. And that shows us how far people have come. Everything has led to this moment. The student loans, the auto loans, maybe they have, debt here and there. It just piles up. It never goes away. It just piles up. So then people have to use services like this, and the problem only gets worse. That's very, very dangerous. Okay, moving on. This right here, I just searched basically for pawn shops, looking at the Vegas area. And this is like the ultimate right here. A lot of people will sell their wedding rings at the pawn shops, take the money, head to the casino, knowing that they are going to be able to double their money. They'll come back, they'll buy the ring back again, and they will be off with their profits. Of course, it never works out like that, and that's why the pawn shops are filled with wedding bands. But this is what people do. When they are at that very edge, they take risk that they simply cannot afford. And then they have to claim bankruptcy. They have to, do desperate things. It's not a good sign, really not. If at first you don't concede, Manhattan's landlords are having to dig ever deeper to fill their apartments. Shares of new leases with incentives. You can see what has happened over the past few months. So what we are seeing here is that Manhattan is encountering some issues. So with all these incentives, like I just covered with the home builders giving incentives, now in Manhattan, the landlords have to give incentives too. So it doesn't necessarily go into what those details are, but you need to know that whenever they're giving incentives, there's an issue. Manhattan apartment sales plummet in January to 2012 low. Okay, this is the lowest monthly rate in January since February 2012, as a declining trend in citywide sales by both price and volume emerged. Very interesting, because you saw previous to that, prices were skyrocketing, rents were skyrocketing, people were buying, the vacancy rates were low, everything's going up. Something's changing. Across Manhattan, 840 co-ops and condos were sold in January, a 20% decline from a year earlier when 1,000 apartment sales were recorded. It's interesting, to say the least, to see how an area like Manhattan, obviously high demand, lots of people, metropolis, skyscrapers, everything is here in this area, and they're watching this decline. So we have to pay attention to it. If it's a continued trend, we may be seeing a downturn. But Manhattan, I believe, is one of the areas that won't be hit as hard as some of the other places, because there will be demand. We have big businesses, you have the headquarters of different companies, you have all kinds of investment that's really permanently situated there. But don't think it can't come down, because it absolutely can and will have to. This right here, Manhattan, you could see the number of new leases declining over, let's say, since about June or July, anyway, summertime of 2017. Surging prices. This is switching gears here for a moment, okay? Now, in the Philippines, they had ever increasing inflation rates. Well, you could see that basically from about 2015 up until present day, inflation has been ramping up higher and higher and higher. What did they do? Well, they took a page out of the book of the US, and they were very smart on this, very, very smart. And I'll just cover this 1 second here. The Philippine Central Bank pledged to take timely action after data showed consumer prices increased at the fastest pace in more than 3 years. In January, stocks and the peso fell. Inflation rose to 4%, up from 3.3% in December. What did they do? In order to bring inflation down, what did they do? Did they print money? Did they reduce the amount of money they're printing? Did they provide people with services and products, or some way like a stimulus budget or something? Instead, they changed the way that they calculate inflation so that it appears lower. That's literally what they did. And it's right out of the playbook of the US. They did the same thing. And in fact, all they need to do is change what goes in to the statistics of CPI or the equivalent, and they will be able to modify this at any time. Look, if steak is too expensive, well, you're going to eat ground beef. If ground beef is too expensive, you're going to eat Spam. If Spam is too expensive, I don't know what the hell you're going to eat. All right? This right here, last, just want to mention that Google has partnered with the United States Department of Defense to help the agency develop artificial intelligence for analyzing drone footage. It goes on further. Just wanted to mention that to realize that you see Google as a search engine. Maybe you see them as, some of the other companies they own, but they are getting into deeply connected into the government. And this is something that people need to understand and really focus on. What are they after here? All right. That's all for this video. Too long, too much info. It's jam-packed, but I hope you do appreciate it. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know that you will find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can actually flip through these books. If you go over to Amazon, there's a look inside feature. It's going to allow you to flip through the pages of these books to see if you like them. Take care.